Beginner painters always ask, why do you cover your canvas with a layer of paint before even starting, if you're just gonna paint over it anyway? Oh, my friends, there are quite a few reasons, and they all will be explained in this very video. Welcome to the studio. I'm Anastasia Mack, and I'm here to help you spill some color on your canvas, of course. Today, I'll show you 4 different ways I start my acrylic paintings, plus one method that didn't work so well for me. But no matter which approach I take, one thing remains the same. I always begin with a painted base layer before starting to use my color to define the composition. So let's address this mysterious first layer, shall we? So here are my 4 ways of starting, plus a bonus one. My first method is I put a dab of paint on canvas with a dollop of matte medium and then spray some water in it to thin it out. Here my paint color is Venetian red. And why add the matte medium though? 2 reasons. Like water, it helps thin the paint so it glides easier, but unlike water, it also knocks down the shine and gloss, creating a lovely matte surface, perfect for layering future colors on top. So once this layer is on and dry, I move on to sketching. I usually start with a charcoal pencil for a loose, flowy outline, then I go over it with a dark paint color to lock it in. That's my paint sketch. Quick tip, by the way, if your stretched canvas is already white, that means it's been pre-primed with gesso at the canvas factory, so you don't need to gesso it again, unless you really want to. In my courses, I used to give students 2 options. A, start with a base layer, or B, create your painting directly on white. And after trying both, nearly everyone agrees. The base layer addition makes the painting process smoother, richer, faster, and more enjoyable. My second way of starting a painting is preparing the composition first on non-toned canvas. This is ideal for when I just want to do a plain pencil sketch on a white canvas and then finalize that sketch with black paint. Once this black paint fully dried, I tone my canvas afterwards. But here's the key. In this method, I only use transparent acrylic paint. Anything opaque or semi-opaque will cover up your image. So here I have a mix of 2 colors, Indian yellow and fluorescent magenta, both transparent. I like this combo because it's both see-through and vibrant. My third way of starting an acrylic painting is again doing a sketch on a white surface, but this time I'm using a brush marker. This option is ideal for me if I'm traveling and don't want to bring any paint. I just want to do a bunch of sketches on the road with a marker and turn them into paintings after getting home. It's important here to use a non-water soluble marker, like this alcohol marker here. That way it doesn't get smeared by the subsequent layers of paint. So in this example, I'm finishing up my sketch and it is done on an art panel instead of canvas. Panel is thinner than stretched canvas, so it is easier to take it on the road. By the way, the marker sketch can also be done on top of a pre-painted panel or canvas, but here I'm choosing to do it first over a white surface. So here to tone my panel, I'm again going to use transparent paint with some matte medium and a few mists of water and apply it evenly over my brush marker drawing. Check this out, the drawing did not get disturbed at all by paint and water. It stayed perfectly intact and is very visible underneath that color transparency. I guess if you have opaque acrylic, you can water it down significantly and eventually it will be see-through, but that option never worked that well for me. The opaqueness of paint still made my image unevenly visible, which I found a bit irritating. The 4th way I start an acrylic painting is by laying down some darker colors on my canvas that will loosely align with the colors of my painting subject. So here I'm thinking backwards. I put down the colors first that will represent whatever it is I aim to paint, and then I will create a sketch on top of them. This painting process is taught in my Negative Beauty online course. The painting goes on to define objects by working on the negative space surrounding them. So in this piece, the subject will be lupine flowers, and I'm placing colors on canvas that will loosely match them. A little bit of violet, blue, magenta, and some yellow in the middle of a field to offer me a neutral option. It's okay if my yellow gets muddied up, it will still create a nice tone. Of course, I'm still spraying water and adding matte medium to this mix. And then I go on to sketch out my composition over this multicolored tone canvas. And from there, the black paint gets added, and eventually I'm going to be working around these objects to build up my painting. The fifth way I start my acrylic painting is by giving you a subliminal message to subscribe to this channel. Then I tone the whole canvas and cover it up, but the message stays right here in the painting. Did it work? Okay, just kidding. Or am I? But seriously, this can add extra meaning to the way you start your piece. You can put a hidden message in there, or better yet, intentions for where you want your painting to take you. It's like your own secret energy infused into the piece from the very first brush stroke. Now, here's one way I don't start my paintings, by toning the canvas like this with a solid, dark, cool color. For example, this medium blue right here. And let me tell you why that just doesn't work for me. Colors like darker blue, charcoal gray, or worst of all, black might seem like a dramatic base for a painting, but they actually work against me when I start layering on warmer colors. I'll show you what I mean as I paint over this one anyway, for the sake of demonstration. So here's the thing about acrylics. Different colors have different levels of pigment strength and coverage. Cooler colors like blues, cold violet, and grayish neutrals in general tend to have stronger pigments and more opacity. That means when you paint with them, they easily cover what's underneath. But warmer colors, reds, oranges, yellows, magentas, they often dry to be more transparent, even if they look rich and vibrant when first applied. So when I try to paint warmer flowers over a cool toned canvas, like this blue one, they come out looking dull and kind of muddy at first, like this color is fighting to be seen because the opposite temperature color is showing through. So then it takes a few extra coats before the warmth really starts to pop, and that can mess with the energy I want to capture in the early layers. Now, if I had toned the canvas in a warm hue, the vibrancy would come through faster and more naturally. So that's why I skipped the cold, darker underpainting. It just doesn't vibe with how I want my colors to glow from the start. Now I'm going to work on those two floral pieces that I prepared while I dive a little deeper into the why of toning my canvases. The main reason for toning my canvas before painting is because it immediately eliminates a stark white canvas background. A blank, bright white canvas can be intimidating and make it harder to judge values. Values are light and dark areas. Toning gives you a middle ground to work from, making it easier to see and compare colors accurately. It also takes away those little white pinholes that can appear when you start painting over a white canvas and define your objects. Pinholes can happen because of uneven canvas surface, and your paint just doesn't go deep enough to penetrate all the levels of those little canvas threads. Toning also improves value and color perception. When working on white surface, colors may appear darker than they actually are, but a toned background helps artists judge highlights and shadows more accurately. It prevents the eye from being tricked, by the contrast between pure white and the first layers of paint. Coating the canvas at the start also creates a unifying base tone. That toned layer influences the entire painting, giving it a cohesive feel. Some artists let the underpainting peek through, creating depth and unity, so it kind of works like a grout. If you imagine the tile wall with grout peeking through and giving the tile that special mood. Sometimes it can be white, gray, or sometimes even black. That's what toning also does for your painting, as if the brushstrokes on the painting were the tile. Toning also adds depth and vibrancy. A toned canvas prevents colors from looking flat by letting a subtle undertone shine through. So even though I'm covering my toned surface with different layers of paint because of the variety of acrylic paint transparency, that surface color still shows through a little bit, even if the paint appears to have coverage on my canvas. Toning also speeds up the painting process overall, because it's easier to cover a pre-toned canvas than a stark white one, and when you have different variations of opaque versus translucent versus transparent paint, you don't have to work as hard to cover your transparent paint parts and hide that white that is showing through when you have some color in your canvas first. So mistakes or gaps in the paint become become less noticeable if the background already has something on it, already has a color. Last but not least, toning reduces glare from white canvas. White surfaces reflect light, right? Which can make it harder to see accurate colors while working on your piece. A toned background actually reduces glare, making the painting process more comfortable for the eyes. Well, I hope these methods give you ideas of how to conquer that scary blank white canvas and move past the discomfort of starting straight into the joy of layering, where the painting magic slowly unfolds. But most importantly, there's no wrong way to begin. The only real mistake is not starting at all. So go make some messy brush markings and experiment, and maybe even take in a direction you don't love, but then trust yourself to bring it all together. And here's how I find my inspiration.